Welcome, everybody, to the Do What You Can Live With podcast. I'm your host, Brandi Mac. I'm a nurse practitioner, and I have a daughter, Brooke, in recovery. Say hello, Brooke. And we kind of figured we haven't really done this in a while. Kind of give an update because she is over 2 years in recovery. Her drug of choice was fentanyl, IV drug user. And, but as many know, or you might not know, usually you may have a drug of choice, but use everything, right? Kind of. Yeah. Yeah. So
my two, for sure. Yeah. Like
methamphetamine.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was a mess with that stuff.
Yeah. And so I kind of figured we'd kind of check in with her and see, because I had made a podcast episode about kind of the struggles and long-term recovery that's just not really, I feel like, talked about. And like for me as a mom, and one of the things I focused on was the lack of aftercare, how there's just nothing. I feel like they should have something in every community that provides.
That isn't just AA meetings.
No, that's exactly what I said.
That upsets me. It's just like community is good, but with especially people in my shoes, I think there should not be an issue with maintenance being a problem. Like, that is the only reason I stayed clean. Without a doubt.
But even as far as aftercare, just as far as assistance with life skills.
Oh,
but about how I feel like I'm failing you because I don't know how to best support you in this stage, and just
failing.
No, but it's
very hard. It is. And why do you think I haven't taken steps? It's not because I don't want to. It's not because I don't crave that for myself, but it also scares the shit out of me. It really does. It scares me very bad. Like, how
to move forward.
Yes, like, especially with having another baby too. But despite that, even if she wasn't a factor, that makes it harder. But
I think she was good for you.
Why would that?
I don't know. I don't, we'll never know. But would you have maintained recovery this long if you had not had her? We'll never know, because she's just a peach.
Well, and like, I don't know, it's been very eye-opening for me all the time. It is really like showing me what I missed it with my son. And that's been a hard pill to swallow.
So one of the things, like with aftercare, and just everyone is different, obviously, in how they recover. But I think majority, they do not know how to, quote unquote, become functioning members of society after living on the streets and for so long and not having employment.
Yeah.
And the hustling, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. And just there's a lot of fear.
Yeah. And not everybody, in my case, I feel like I could speak on this, took care of themselves and was independent and had that, like, as a matter of fact, I had a lot of insecurities with it already before I fell into it the way I did. Like, I felt like I was very stagnant even before, like, I never got out of that. And then my addiction, without a doubt, amplified it, like, made those issues and insecurities even bigger, and to the point where it's, extreme. I'm 26 years old and I have never held a job, for longer than a month, maybe. I want to say at the minimum it was a month, maximum, and that's hard. And then it's really embarrassing. I have 2 kids. Like, that's really hard. That's really, really hard.
I was going to say, what do you think, being over, gosh, I don't know, 2.5 years almost now? What do you think's been the hardest part of staying?
A lot of things. Staying clean. So many things, with personal battles within myself. For example, like, I really struggled with feeling like I was missing out. I struggled with that for a while, like feeling like I was missing out on what I felt like were my only friends. And then having to cut myself off from that because I had to do that in order to stay away and not get roped back into it. That was even harder, and that was like, really hard. Like, I felt like I was abandoning them, and that was really shitty and hard too, because then you feel like, how dare you feel that way? Because you're going to do the right thing and be with your kid and be with your family. And I did, I know people are going to relate to that, because that was very hard for me. It is hard. I've gotten to a point where, times passed and I'm stronger than I was, and I've tried to see how people are kind of doing from afar, from a distance, and that's made me feel better.
Good news is a few we've talked about in the last week are actually doing really good.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. People that I knew from
different
states.
Yeah.
Have been doing great for years. And that's amazing. People I never thought would get it together. And, and not to say that it's forever going to be like that, because I'm not here to judge anybody.
Give Janet a shout out. We won't say the last name.
Love you, Janet. So much.
And, but yeah, no, I mean, I can understand. I mean, it has to be in some ways, dysfunctional, but aren't all like almost dysfunctional family.
Oh, I was going to bring up the family dynamics next. That was very hard too. In the beginning, like when I was pregnant with her, that was really difficult. There was other factors involved, but it was very hard for me. And I knew I wasn't going to go,
to leave the street?
Yes. Yeah. Like I really grappled with it. I knew it'd been weighing on me really heavy, that I felt like it was time, like I needed to do something. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't tell myself then, oh, it was time. Like I was just like, I felt like a pull.
It's weird. That whole situation, I feel like
it was very bizarre.
Involved a pull.
It was really weird. Well, it really affected me when I had friends there seeing that. When you invited me to Thanksgiving, like friends I would cry with about that shit,
So I get so emotional when I tell that.
I didn't talk to my son. I didn't talk to anybody because it was just a lot of issues and for years and made things really difficult. It was more than just the drugs aspect. And at the end of the day, it was like, there was a lot of different factors at play. And it was also, it's hard for anybody, like going through that. If you love somebody, it was me, I was your kid, I'm
curious your opinion on this. I don't know. Do you think any of this would have been possible if we hadn't gone through everything we went through?
No.
I shifted and big changes needed to happen.
But without a doubt, I don't think things could have gone the way they had I not did all that. But I suffered so much, and I do think it was necessary in the most messed up way, for you on your end, for me on mine, in my own way. Like I've known that for many years now.
It's why I can't say enough. Like I know it looks like we're besties for the resties. It was very toxic.
Oh God.
Very toxic.
So bad. Like,
it was very bad.
I never thought it would be at this point. Never ever did. I never thought we would be able to stand each other. I did not think we would have anything to do with each other for a long time.
And that was a big fear of mine. I knew I wanted to get to this point more than anything, but I
didn't think it was possible for a while.
I had to do a lot of work on me and my healing.
You did, for sure. Without a doubt, you
to reach.
I'm grateful for the chance to be with my kids. And I've really, really tried to put my best foot forward as much as I could for the first time. And I know I made progress. Like I might not have been working all this time and making my own money, but I know I've made progress without a doubt.
You have. And I think for me, one of the most beautiful things has been the sibling dynamic.
Yeah, I feel
like healing. Anybody who's gone through it, especially if it's a sibling listening, I know you guys carry a lot of resentment because they're the ones that don't rock the boat and their needs get put to the side.
Without a doubt.
And it causes a lot of resentment and healing can take place though. And because I was worried about you and your sister.
Oh man, me and her didn't get along for a long time.
Oh, I know. I remember getting the phone call.
We did, but we didn't. I don't know. It was weird. It was really weird. And I was a mess, and I still feel bad for that. It took easily a year or so for me to get to a point where things weren't volatile on my end, where my first instinct wasn't to be getting into it with them, which I wouldn't go about things like that now, but I couldn't not go about things like that then.
Yeah, that I say, like, for me during that first year with the coping, and then on top of it, you got pregnant.
It was the worst thing to like happen. Like, it made me feel horrible about myself. It felt like it could not have been a better time and situation, sarcastically, I'm saying this, for this to happen. Like, I felt so embarrassed and insecure and just feeling like the biggest loser imaginable. So that was also, something I feel like we haven't touched on too much, but that was hard. Like, just in the way I felt about myself, like, very hard. It has been, I've gone through the motions with it since she's been born. At this point, feel like I've gotten to a point where I feel pretty steady with things, I guess you could say, with where I'm at with my kids. Like, because things weren't easy with them. Things weren't easy with my son at first. Why would they?
That was an investment.
Yeah. Probably for like until this past year. And as this year has gone on, things have really started to shift without a doubt. But like, it was very hard.
Healing takes time, and that's something I've kind of been focusing on, and where I think services are really lacking, because a lot of this work I did on my own. I got a trauma therapist, but I overanalyzed myself.
Made that step to do it.
It's so common. Being a parent is hard. She's recognizing it, and she has regrets, and it is a cop out, I feel like, to say, I did the best I could.
Because it doesn't diminish what you went through.
What they went through. And so I think having a level of accountability, and if you tend to get into it with your loved one who's maybe in recovery, or when they have periods of recovery, is if it's always hostile, you might have to look inward with your communication style. I did.
Yeah, I know that made all the difference too. Like, well, because I could not deal with how you would go about things for a long time. It would immediately put me into like fight or flight, like, without a doubt. And after a while, my first instinct was to be like, I'm getting out of here.
Like, that's why, like, that first year, especially, I would say those first 6 months, it was not easy. And she would get triggered in some way. Something would set us both off, and I'm like, the only one that I can control is me. And so I would just try, and that was the thing, is that it really diffused a lot of the things that would have turned into World War III.
Yeah, historically, like, I mean, I never wanted to argue with you back then. I don't necessarily think you wanted to argue with me either.
But I think it becomes habits, right? Like, a kind of, in some ways, patterns.
Very much patterns, but even also psychological patterns. That's what affected me the most. Is it took me a long time for my brain to retrain itself to not think that the first response, because I literally would tell myself, even when I wasn't around you, I would do something or I would think something, and I would hear what you would say in my goddamn head, and it would drive me insane. It would drive me nuts. And then even when we would argue, or that, it would send me into like a defensive spiral. And then you got to a point too, because we just would have these horribly explosive fights for a very long time that were just terrible. I can't stand feeling like that.
And then we both feel bad because we both end up shaming each other.
I would feel terrible about it, especially as I aged. Like, I feel so guilty and like such a piece of shit, because it's like, I don't want to treat you or anybody like that.
No, those first 6 months, I was like, wow, I guess this is progress, because you didn't just leave. Like, and normally she would have, it would have been too much. That's
what would usually have me bend historically. Not saying that's on you. It was also on me. I got to a point where you were trying, and I would assume that something would go a certain way and it was not worth dealing with it. But then it got to a point where I just would assume the worst possible outcome for me, and I would be like, nope, not going to do it. I was also, don't think I was ready to stop for a long time either. It was just easier to go about things that way.
She did utilize medication-assisted treatment. This go-round, she'd been on it since she came home.
Yeah.
She was on Subutex, and then now she's on Complicate, the monthly injection. But it's definitely been quite the journey. Yeah, whenever we get a chance to do something like this again, we will. I just kind of on the whim. we usually decide if baby bread is
Yeah, because then I'll think, oh,
cooperating.
we could do it tomorrow. No, we can't.
We won't. That's what I was like, that ain't gonna happen. But we have to do it at night. But all right, you guys, thanks for being here, and we'll see you soon. Bye.